Welcome to Crosspoint.
Welcome to Crosspoint.
Welcome to Crosspoint.
We are an inclusive faith community
seeking to live out the loving, just, and generous way of Jesus.
We are participants in a long tradition.
It's less concerned with doctrines and dogma that demand total agreement,
but a life to be lived, enjoyed, and given away to others.
What unites us is a growing awareness that life is precious.
That we are made by love in order to love.
This community is comprised of and affirms the entire human family,
regardless of race, age, creed,
physical abilities, marital or economic status,
gender identity, or sexual orientation.
So, if you're curious and have come to see,
if you are tired and have come to rest,
if you are grateful and have come to share,
if you are wounded and have come to heal,
if you're joyful and have come to celebrate,
if you are uprooted and have come to belong,
welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Crosspoint. My name is Stephen, and I'm one of the pastors here, and I want to welcome you. We're glad you're here. I want to start today with a song by my friend Taylor Lenhart called I Don't Have Much. And I love this song because of its simplicity. It's a genuine expression of worship and gratitude to God. The whole subject and conversation about worshiping God can become deep and nuanced. And if you catch me on the right day, I'm there for it. We can talk all day. But it's important from time to time to be reminded that even simple, involuntary bodily acts, such as breathing and the beating of your heart, are inherently acts of worship. You're breathing, but do you know that you're breathing? When's the last time you thought about or were aware of your heart beating? And can you see the blessing of God? Can you recognize the blessing of God in each heartbeat? And as you become aware, can you offer a moment of gratitude to God for creating you and sustaining you moment to moment? So as I sing, I want to invite you to sing along if that's helpful. Or maybe you just want to close your eyes. Maybe you want to allow the music to just fade into the background and let your act of worship be intentionally focusing your attention on your breath or the beating of your heart. How can I respond to the love that you have lavished on me? How can I respond to the love that you have lavished on me? I don't have much, I don't have much, but I have a heart that beats for you. I have a heart that beats for you. I don't have much, I don't have much, but I have a heart that beats for you. I have a heart that beats for you. How can I respond to the love that you have lavished on me? How can I respond to the love that you have lavished on me? I don't have much, I don't have much, but I have a heart that beats for you. I have a heart that beats for you. I don't have much, I don't have much, but I have a heart that beats for you. I have a heart that beats for you. Every part of me wants to love you like you've loved me, Lord. Every part of me wants to love you like you've loved me, Lord. I don't have much, I don't have much, but I have a heart that beats for you. I have a heart that beats for you. I don't have much, I don't have much, but I have a heart that beats for you. 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 I have a life I'll give to 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 you. I don't have much, I don't have much, but I have a heart that beats for you. I have a heart that beats for you. I don't have much, I don't have much, but I have a heart that beats for you. I have a heart that beats for you. I don't know why, but I am feeling especially pastoral today. I really am grateful that I get to be the face and the voice that through which God's blessing is passed on to you all. So I want to read a blessing from the Old Testament book of Numbers. And this blessing was given to the people through Aaron and the priests. And so as the people of God, all of us equally and collectively, I invite us to receive this blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. My brother, my sister, God love you and God bless you. My brother, my sister, God love you and God bless you. And may God hold us all in those almighty arms of love. May God hold us all in those almighty arms of love. My brother, my sister, God love you and God bless you. My brother, my sister, God love you and God bless you. And may God hold us all in those almighty arms of love. May God hold us all in those almighty arms of love. Bring me a higher love. Bring me a higher love. Oh, bring me a higher love. It's that higher love I've been thinking of. My brother, my sister, God love you and God bless you. My brother, my sister, God love you and God bless you. And may God hold us all in those almighty hands of love. May God hold us all in those almighty hands of love. Bring me a higher love. Bring me a higher love. Oh, bring me a higher love. It's that higher love we've been thinking of. Bring me a higher love. Bring me a higher love. Oh, bring me a higher love. It's that higher love I've been thinking of. My brother, my sister, God love you and God bless you. My brother, my sister, God love you and God bless you. And may God hold us all in those almighty hands of love. May God hold us all in those almighty hands of love. Amen.
Hey, good morning, Crosspoint. Really good to be with you again this morning. Hey, I want to take a moment just to draw your attention to some different things that are going on in our community. One of those is life groups, and it is the season for our community to get connected into life groups. Those of you that aren't familiar with what life groups are, they're just groups of people that get together on somewhat of a regular basis and do life together, that we can talk about matters of faith and what's going on in our world and how we process that, how we navigate that. We can celebrate with one another and grieve with one another and just share our lives with it and have people that are there to help pick us up when we fall and people just to encourage us and walk with us. And so if you're not connected to a life group, I'd really encourage you to try to get connected here as soon as possible, because in this world of quarantine, in this world of isolation, it's all the more important that we put a discipline in our lives to lean into relationships. And it's never been easier than ever to get connected to a life group. All you have to do is go to crosspoint.org/life groups. They're all going to be meeting on Zoom this fall. And so you can look at the different groups that are being offered. You can look at the times that they are. And that's all you got to do is say, okay, here's the time that works. Here's the day that works. And I will jump on a Zoom call with some people and get to know them that are part of this community that we're in together. So I hope that you'll take advantage of that. But that's not just true for adults. That's true for students as well. And so students, if you haven't signed up for a life group in middle school or high school, we'd encourage you to do that. And if you're a parent of a student and they haven't taken that step yet, I'd really encourage you to help them take that step. This is really important, again, to have some community, to have some people. There are going to be more and more struggles with isolation and loneliness, and to have a discipline into our lives where you get together with some people who are just going to check in on you and who are going to do life with you, and to have a third voice in their life who's regularly speaking into their life and who's trying to reinforce the same things. If you're a parent that are trying to reinforce those same things that you're trying to reinforce to your kids into their lives. And we all need that third voice that can help speak into our kids' lives. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're a parent of a student who's not signed up yet, that you'd help them do that. You can go to our website, crosspoint.org, and you can click on the middle school page or the high school page. It's really prominent there of how they can get connected with life groups, as well as you can, any of the student emails that have gone out and information that you have about how they can get connected. And then also, speaking of students, today is kicking off our Middle School Edge Remix Live. And so at 11 a.m., we'll have a Zoom call that will launch our brand new programming for middle schoolers on Sunday morning. And so there's going to be worship, there's going to be teaching, there's going to be games and opportunities for huddle groups for kids to connect with one another. And if you have a brand new sixth grader who is kicking off school here this week or next week, this is their official week to move up into middle school ministry. And so I hope that you'll help them get connected with and help them join our new seventh graders and eighth graders, and as they kick off the middle school fall ministry. You know, I was thinking about this over the past few days, but I'm just I'm really grateful for these Sunday morning gatherings that we have together. And I don't know about you, but they've really served as kind of just an anchor in my own week and an anchor in my family's week. And I've been super grateful for that and for all the time and energy that a lot of people put in behind the scenes to make this 45 minutes or an hour come together. But I was also reflecting how it can just become easy to get lulled into that being a part of Crosspoint or this Crosspoint community is simply about consuming content once a week for 45 minutes or an hour. And I want to be careful that myself and all of us, that we don't get lulled into that we remind ourselves, no, we're invited to be participants in this community, not just consumers of content, but that participants in what it means to be a part of Crosspoint. And I just want to remind you that every single day of the week, we've got people working and doing everything they can to help kids, to love kids, to come alongside them and their parents of all ages. We're doing that with students, we're doing that with adults. We're helping relationships of every kind, trying to come alongside them and help them thrive. And when they're broken, try to help walk with them through that brokenness to try to work toward healing, or just walk through them with the pain of the brokenness. We do counseling, we do mentoring, we're helping people find ways to serve in our community. We're paying people's rent together. We're getting needed school supplies for kids. We're helping all sorts of different people in need in various ways. We're growing food in the garden on our campus for local food banks. And all of it falls under the banner of us following Jesus' one core teaching to love God and love people. And so I hope we'll continue to find ways to lean in together, and that we'll be reminded that while this is consuming content maybe once a week on our TV or on our phone or however we watch it, but that we're a part of something that is doing really good and beautiful things every single day of the week, all week long, to love one another and love our city really well. And so if you want to help continue to fund that, you can go to crosspoint.org/contribute, and it'll give you all sorts of different ways you can contribute there. Also, you can text the word crosspointenc to the number 77977, and it'll send you a link to your phone and you can contribute that way. So again, Crosspoint's really good to be with you this morning, and I'm excited for the teaching that Steve has for us today.
A couple of weeks ago, the National Park Service issued it was a Facebook post, and it was meant to be helpful. They're always trying to be helpful in making sure that people have a safe and enjoyable time in our national parks. And their Facebook post read, "Please don't run from bears or push your slower friends down in attempts of saving yourself." And like a lot of good jokes, the way that works is, at least in my opinion, is because there's a little bit of truth in it. You can sort of see yourself maybe considering that option if you were desperate. And so I thought that story was a really good way of getting into what I wanted to talk to you about today. The way that when we're afraid or we're in pain, or afraid that we're going to be in pain, we act like less than ourselves. And we certainly behave less than beautifully towards other humans that our lives overlap with. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. But to do that, I'd like to start with something that happened generations before the time in the ministry of Jesus. This actually happens in the book of Numbers. It's recorded in the book of Numbers, so in Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. And it's an interesting story in the 11th chapter of Numbers. And I won't read you the whole chapter, but the summary of it goes something like this. And I want you to know from the outset that it's a weird story. It's sort of a difficult story. But one of the ways that I read it and get through it pretty much just fine is I think it's supposed to be comedic. A lot of us grew up thinking that reverence and laughter are different categories, and I 100% disagree with that. I think the writers of ancient scripture were clever and smart and inspired and hilarious, and there are many examples of that throughout the scriptures. I think that this is one of them. And so the story is that this entire group, hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children, Israelites, they were slaves in Egypt. And being owned by other people is always awful. Now they have their freedom, but they're out in the wilderness, and Moses is responsible for them. And even though they're free, they're starting to complain a lot, and they're starting to say things like, yeah, it was bad back in Egypt. It was no fun being a slave, but we ate well. We had meat, we had clean water, we had vegetables, and they name off all the vegetables that they had. We had cucumber and melon, and so they're really starting to complain that these weeks turning into months, turning into years, wandering in the desert before they get to the promised land, it's starting to wear on them, and some of them are starting to hearken back to when it was bad, but it was a familiar bad. And Moses is getting more and more frustrated. And I can understand. I've been camping with people before, and after 24 hours, there's a 15th complaint about mosquitoes or not having an air mattress, and it wears on you a little bit. Moses is just done. He's spent. And it actually, in that 11th chapter, captures Moses praying, if there's any chance I could just die now, I would rather die than be in charge of these people. They're just being awful. They just do nothing but complain. And so as the story goes, and there's a little bit of a back and forth with Moses and God, God even says at one point, I'll fix their complaining. I'm going to make it so they have so much food. They're going to have food coming out of their nose. They're going to be tired of good food. And so that's one of the reasons I just think it's a great comedic scene. Tell the story around a campfire to your kids. And so Moses finally says, look, I need help. I can't do this by myself. I can't bear the burden of being the sole leader for all of these people, especially the way that they're behaving now. And so Moses asks for help. And so the way that God answers this is that he says, take these men outside of the camp, this mobile, impermanent camp that they had with a temple in the middle. Take them outside the camp. There's going to be this tent of meeting. And I want you to have them all meet there, and then I'm going to pour out a little bit of my spirit that I've poured out on you. I'm going to pour it out on them, and then they're going to be able to know what's good and true, and they're going to be able to shoulder this burden. Anyway, long story short, that's what happens, which brings us to the 26th verse of the 11th chapter of Numbers. This little thing that happens. 2 men remained in the camp, one named Eldad, and the other named Medad, and the Spirit rested on them. So they were not where everybody else was. They're still in the camp where all the tents are. They were among those registered, but they had not gone out to the tent of meeting, and so they prophesied inside the camp. So they're suddenly awakened to what's true, but they're not part of the rest. Like the event that's happening. And a young man ran and told Moses, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. And Joshua, son of Nun, the assistant of Moses, one of his chosen men, said, my master Moses, my Lord Moses, stop them. This is bad. But Moses said to him, are you jealous for my sake? I wish that all the Lord's people were prophets. I wish everybody could wake up to the divine in their presence, and that the Lord would put his Spirit on them. I wish there were no limit to this. Are you jealous for my sake? I wish this was universal. And Moses and the elders of Israel returned to the camp. There's this stressful moment, and there's some tattling, and Joshua says, Moses, we got to shut this down. And Moses is like, no, I don't want this to be elite. I don't want this to be exclusive. It's better for everybody if everybody wakes up to the divine. That's better for me, it's better for them, it's better for you. I want it to be bigger, not smaller. All right, so fast forward many, many generations to the time of Jesus, Gospel of Mark, the 9th chapter. Lots of interesting things happening in the 9th chapter of Mark. The disciples are traveling around with Jesus, and he's speaking encouraging words to people that no one else is listening. And the empire just didn't even care that you existed unless they needed your land or your body for their army. And so Jesus is going out, way out, rural, and into the margins, and speaking to people that nobody else cared about, and healing and casting out demons, and has just cast out a demon from a child. It's a wild scene. And then somebody comes to him, John comes to him and makes this announcement in verse 38 of the 9th chapter of Mark. It says, "Teacher," John is saying to Jesus, "we saw someone casting out demons in your name." Like they're calling on your reputation and casting out demons. "And we tried to stop him because he was not following us." He doesn't wear our jersey. He's not part of our club. But Jesus said, "Don't stop him. For no one who does a deed of power in my name or in alignment with my reputation will be able to soon afterward speak evil of me. Whoever is not against us is for us." Don't stop them. Are you kidding me? Somebody has a demon. Now they don't. How is that bad? How is that opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish for people, to give them their own minds back, for people to be healthy, to save them, to save them, this is how Jesus would put it, to save their bodies, to make them healthy and whole again. How could that be bad? I want this to be for more people. I want more people doing our work, not less people. I want more people blessed and healthy and rescued from all the things that make humanity suffer. Not less, more. I want it to be expansive, not restrictive. See, in both cases, you have people coming to their leaders saying, how can we make this elite and keep it small? How can we make sure that the us is us and the them is them? And for both of these leaders, it's no, it's better if it's more and it's bigger. See, both of these stories rhyme in some very important ways. And not just because I think in some ways Jesus is presented to us as Moses 2.0, but the participants are in very similar emotional states. They are, in their own contexts, people living on the edge, trying to form some sort of identity after having lost their previous identity. They want to belong because they don't belong the way that they used to. They've lost something. They've lost their geography. They've lost their narrative a little bit. They're trying to survive in the midst of so many others that are somewhere between disinterested in their welfare or might be actually dangerous to them. In both cases, they're people who can't really remember if it was as bad as some people are saying, because life is so hard now. I think I want to go back. I think I'd like to go back to how things were before. It's getting harder and harder to imagine that things could ever be good or easy or comfortable again. In both cases, you have people in this emotional state where they feel desperate and afraid and uncomfortable perpetually, day after day, uncomfortable and afraid. And I don't know if you've noticed this yet, but it's a huge aha when you finally notice this. Jesus doesn't very much change the circumstances. He doesn't make the external circumstances easier or safer or more comfortable or even less scary. He doesn't change the circumstances. He teaches anyone who will allow themselves to be taught how to be in the midst of those exact same circumstances and yet not be at the mercy of fear and discomfort. That's what Jesus does. He doesn't really change external circumstances. He teaches people how to navigate them, even if they stay exactly as they are. And I should say, this is so important, relief is sacred. Anytime relief can be had from suffering, it should be offered. I should offer relief to people insofar as it's within my power to do so every time I can. But it is often not within our power to offer much relief. It is often not in our power to change circumstances for ourselves or for anyone else. And despite many of us trying to create an entire life, create an entire personality, create the sole purpose for existing out of seeking relief, seeking comfort, seeking relief from our fear, despite several of us doing that, we need to accept that relief does not come to stay for very long. Surely you've noticed. Relief isn't coming to stay for very long. I mean, the murder hornet doesn't wait until the pandemic is over. It just shows up right in the middle of it. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. Relief doesn't move in, it visits. And what Jesus is teaching us is how to live in that reality, not how to change reality so that we can finally live. Do you understand the difference? It's how to navigate all of the hardship that life throws at us while being compassionate and aware of self and others, while being at peace, but not waiting until circumstances change so that those things become easier, become possible. Jesus teaches us how to do it in the midst of those things. And importantly, fear and pain are completely natural. To be afraid is totally normal and even good. Without fear, we wouldn't get very far as a species. I was just on a morning run, and I'm going past this construction site, and these guys have these ladders, and I'm scared of heights. These ladders look 100 feet tall, but I was looking, and he's at the top of a ladder that goes all the way up past the third story. So I guess that's like a 35, 40-foot ladder. He's almost at the top of it. And the way that it's leaning, it's like sagging. It looks like the framework you would use if you were going to make a paper mache banana. I mean, it's just bent like this, and he's all the way at the top. And while I'm running, I can feel tension in my body because I'm terrified of heights. More afraid of falling than heights, but it's the same thing. And so as I'm running by, I force myself, Doherty, don't look away. Face your fears. I'm going to face my fears from the asphalt, looking up at this guy 30, 35 feet in the air. And it's just making me nervous to look at this. And then I realize he's got one hand on some sort of painting tool, some big wide thing, but he can't reach where he's trying to reach. And so he's doing that thing where you pull the top of the ladder and shimmy it in the air so that it will kind of move. And I'm looking at the bottom of the ladder is doing this. Let me remind you how many miles up he is doing this thing. I didn't mean to. I yelled, "What?" It just came out of me. Like that was my way of judging his intelligence. What? And then he could reach, and I ran by, and I was having this thought, I sort of wish I were that brave. And I'm telling you, it wasn't 90 seconds later, I hear sirens. And they're passing me going back to where I just was. And so now I hear this other voice saying, fear isn't weakness. It's good to be afraid of some things. I did run back through there. I finished the circle about half an hour later, and he was still up on the ladder. So apparently it was somebody else's bad day. That's my way of telling you. I understand we fear different things. Fear and being uncomfortable, those are totally normal reactions to the world that we live in. They're not evil. They're not to be judged as so. It's data. Fear and discomfort, that's data that we're telling ourselves. But what many of us forget is that data, if we're not paying attention, can be turned into direction. It goes from being data and it becomes directions. And we don't realize that. We no longer even realize that we have a choice. We think all we can be is afraid, and all we can do is live by that fear, or by the suffering or the fear of more suffering. And we become mastered by it. We are then at its mercy because our emotions go from being information to being instructions. And so one way of understanding it is this: when we're afraid or when we're in pain, we constrict. We lose our awareness of our truest self, which is made in the image of the divine. We lose our awareness of our connection with others, and we become an unhealthy individual because we've constricted sort of away from reality down inside of ourselves, away from being an integrated soul like we were created to be, and something very isolated and afraid. And we're all unique, but the way that this happens, the way that we behave under these unchecked stresses is fairly predictable. And so listen to yourself in these examples. Some of us, when we live in a state of discomfort or suffering or fear, we become very dominating. And we become confrontational about almost everything. We even, some of us become bullies because it just feels smarter to be on that side of power. But some of us become unavailable. Some of us become withdrawn, and we begin to seek comfort more than we seek out even our own direct family members. But then some of us become really critical and judgmental. There's a rigidity to us. We become perfectionistic or idealistic about everything and everyone. But then others of us, when we're under this unchecked stress, we start to cross boundaries and we push into other people's lives, trying to be the person responsible for making everybody's lives better, even at the expense of our own. We become sort of arrogant. I know what you need better than you do. But some of us, we turn everything into a competition. Some of us, when we get into this perpetual discomfort and fear state, everything becomes a competition, and so other human beings become competitors. They're no longer the objects of love. They become objects in our way, something to be surpassed or stepped on. But some of us, we become really dramatic and hypersensitive. And because we're trying to get our needs met by being noticed and by being recognized and heard, but it doesn't work, and so then we become exempt and superior. But some of us, what we do is we start provoking people, and not up close. We withdraw and provoke from a distance, and we become less and less willing to make peace. We just want to make a point. But some of us, we get more and more suspicious, even a bit cynical. And we start to feel skeptical about everything, and pretty soon every interaction is from a defensive position. But some of us, we become greedy and lustful for new experiences. We want to be anywhere but where we are. Even we'll be here bodily, but mentally we're somewhere else. What else could I be doing? And nothing is ever good enough. It's more. We just want to escape the world and head for another world. And there's all kinds of variations to those, but I bet you find yourself in one or more of those. And no matter our type of reaction, what we're doing is we're descending more and more deeply into what's really like our ego, our false self, our shadow selves, self-prioritizing. Because we're coming away from the image of divine, which is expansive and which is full of love. It's made in the image of love, and it's full of peace and compassion and awareness. We descend more into something that's counterfeit and self-absorbed, away from the divine and into more really predictable patterned behavior. We get angry, we live in shame, we feel anxiety. And then so we become constricted individuals employing tactics based on those things, hoping we'll win some respect or win some approval or perhaps make us feel more safe, all the while driving other people away that we believe threaten those things. And so in doing that, we lose our capacity for peace and compassion. We lose our capacity for collaboration. We lose our capacity for creativity. And we lose our deeper awareness of ourselves and others and of God, which forces us into the only relationships that we feel like we have left. They feel sort of plastic and unfulfilling. And many of us, through our adult lives, have relationships, but we've been doing it in the same patterned way for so long that we actually just don't even believe in love anymore. We don't even believe that we can be truly connected, that we can have real bonds anymore. But some of us, we're beginning to recognize maybe it's the way that I've moved through life afraid and angry and trying to find relief versus living based on who I actually am. Some of us are beginning to realize the limits of trying to secure relationships and hold those together by simplistic measures, by like common enemy. I don't know if you took psychology in school or maybe you got a degree in it or whatever it is, but common enemy describes like the most simplistic, superficial way of forming bonds with others. And on some level it sort of works, but it's really, there's not very much to it. And all of us are doing it. And maybe now, more than ever, employing the tactics of common enemy. It it doesn't result in much depth, because what it is it's trying to form bonds based on who or what you both hate. It requires a third thing to feel badly about. It requires a third thing to hate, another person or a group or a belief system or whatever to be against, which means the bond isn't predicated on love or growth or depth. It's predicated on being against something else. And it's hard to see, but once you see it, it's hard to unsee. How many of us wouldn't even know what to talk about, wouldn't know how to have a conversation if it wasn't rooted in our disdain for someone else, if it wasn't about complaining about somebody else? How many of us, what would we talk about if we weren't talking about some bad experience I had with another human being? How many of us, our relationships are largely built on, and all the conversations that we have in those relationships are built on our mutual disdain for other kinds of voters or other kinds of believers? How often is our small talk with strangers based on the weather is too hot, masks are too annoying, the closures all around us are too inconvenient? And see, these aren't just about being negative. This isn't just, well, some people are negative. No, it's far more than that. It's often when we're caught in these moments, what it's showing us is that we aren't doing the work of remembering who we actually are. We aren't doing the work of recognizing moment to moment, best we can, how good life actually is fundamentally. Underneath all the problems and all the things that scare us and make it uncomfortable, how beautiful it is to be. We haven't done the work. That's how we get caught in those moments and in those patterns, is we forgot. And so we get stuck in a pattern. We get stuck on autopilot, and therefore we use constricted measures like, hey, let's hate something together to see if we can form a real quick bond. We're stuck in those patterns because we've forgotten to remember who we are. And the Spirit of God is always, always, always saying, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. This is going to be bigger and wider and deeper and have more people and more nuance and more diversity and more things to learn. There's going to be more love and more peace and more grace, not less. The Spirit of God is always, always, always speaking to that part of us that wants to constrict and keep it just me or us against them, because it makes us feel safe and it feels smart. That part of us that's just driven by fear and the avoidance of discomfort and the quest for relief, the Spirit is always saying, no. Bigger, broader, wider, deeper, more. This thing is going to be more beautiful than your fear could ever imagine. But we've been conditioned to be afraid of each other, to be afraid of ourselves. We've been conditioned that if we don't hustle for our own value, no one's ever going to see it. We've been conditioned that to live in suffering and fear. It's that if we're going to do that, then only survivors are going to survive. We've been conditioned to believe that, so conditioned that our brains, many of us, our prefrontal cortexes, they've been shrunken while the fear center of our brain has been enlarged. But we can literally re-expand that through gratitude, through remembering, by accepting, by being open and accepting and remembering Jesus' way of love and peace and kindness and goodness. They're possible now in these circumstances, in the family that you have or don't have now, in the world as it is right now, whether everything's on fire or everything's great, Jesus' way is possible now in this moment. He would often say, the kingdom of God, don't go looking for it there or there or there. The kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is in your midst. To close, I want to pray a prayer that's so overly familiar to us that we might struggle to value it. It's called the Lord's Prayer. I don't know why we call it the Lord's Prayer, because it's a prayer the Lord gave to us. So it's actually our prayer. But in the same section of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, where he talks about anxiety and he talks about putting on a show, some sort of piety show to impress people, to get people to really think something of you. In that same section, he says, here's how I want you to pray. And he gives a framework for prayer that we would call the Lord's Prayer, and it goes like this. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Just sit with that prayer for a second and recognize the first word. Our. Our Father is how this prayer starts. So whatever it is you're coming to pray about, no matter how limited and constricted and isolated you believe that you are, this prayer starts with our. And our challenges that. Our includes you and your friends and your enemies. Our is you and those who hurt you. Our is those you surround yourself with because they make your life easier, because they agree with you, they see things the way that you see things, as well as those you avoid because of their lives and their beliefs. Our is you, and our is me, and our is people that there's no way your fear and quest for relief would easily accept. Our Father. Our is a beautiful, challenging way to start a prayer for something allegedly as private as your spiritual life. And then Father in heaven, the Father of unfathomable expanse, limitless upward and outward, our Father of unrestricted airspace. See, it's about expanse. Our Father in heaven, not some leader, not somebody that has an office. Our Father in heaven, venerated be your name and reputation. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth. Not just my team or my church or my private adventures in being human, but the context for the entire human species. On earth as it is in heaven. Make it for us as it is in the eternal expanse. Give us this day our daily bread. And if it's us and our bread, then what I'm hoping to receive today must not come at the expense of others, because we're connected. If it's good for me, it must be good for you. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts. If it's our debts, then all must be forgiven, or how would we know how anything could be? Forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation. It's us, it's our temptations, because our actions and our inactions have consequences on the whole, even if we can't see them. Help us see our thoughts and actions as being bound to the thoughts and actions of others, and deliver us all from how badly that can go when we forget. May we be individual people who feel our fears, who are honest about our pain, who are honest and accepting about other people's fear and their pain, but in constant gratitude and in constant clarity see that that's never the whole story. And that fear and pain are great servants, but they're terrible masters. May we be people who recognize that how our individual patterns of behavior hurt us each and all, because it's something less than who we are as image bearers of the divine. And may we trust that the Christ, in even the harshest difficulties, is worth trusting. And remember that whatever the Spirit is up to is going to be wider and deeper and more full of peace and compassion, and include more people than our fearful selves would care to imagine. And this is another facet of what we mean when we say good news. Amen.
Thank you for joining us today, and welcome home. If you are in need of assistance during this crisis, please reach out at crosspoint.org/help.